Hi everyone. So today I'm going to explain the final workflow for the phase 4 of this property staging and styling business. So what this does is the schedule trigger is going to trigger this workflow by 9 a.m. and search for properties that are listed using the listing URL, and then loop through each of those listing property. Once it does that, it's going to get the details of that listing property. And here we have our route. Here our route. So here we have our route. So we have different listing property status. We have properties that are under offer, properties that are sold, expired or not sold, properties that are unknown, or properties that are just listed. So once that particular each of the properties is being uh, checked through the API URL. So here we have the API URL which uses the real estate AU listing, and then so for each of it is going to tell us the details of that particular listing URL, if it has been sold, under offer, listed, or expired. So that is what this API is going to do. So once this schedule trigger starts, this it pick this date, which is 1 hour in every 24 hours. So it's going to pick 1 hour for each trigger. So once it's trigger, it's going to search for record. So we search for record that are accepted and not sold. So once it does that, we have the list of properties that are not sold, and then here we have our loop node. This loop node is going to process each property recorded one at a time through scraping and status checking. So the first one is going to come and use this scraping API. So this API is going to be the one to scrape the data. So here is the listing URL that we are passing, which is coming from the table field. And once it scrapes it and gets the data we are having, so we are going to structure our data with the code node. So the code node will give us these details: the record listing, the listing URL, the previous status change, the sold price if it's sold, the property address, the client's name, the agent's name, and when it's scanned. So once we have that, then we are using the route, which is the switch node. The switch node will be the one to switch based on each of the status. So here we are checking the current status. If the current status is under offer, it's going to switch to the current under offer. If it's sold, and if it's expired, if this property is unknown at all, and if it's listed. So these are the rules that we give the switch node. So once we have that, now for the under offer, it's going to update this particular status of that particular table to under offer, and here is going to notify the company if it's under offer, and that means soon to be sell. So that is for the under offer. So once you check the status again, so it's after that. So when it done with this first one, let's say you see a status that is under offer, it's going to check. Once you update it and notify the company, it's going to come to this wait. Here is a wait node that wait for 5 seconds. It pauses the looping for 5 seconds. Because we don't want to continue. We don't want to loop it immediately after it's finished the first, after it's executed the first route. So we want to wait, we want to pause for 5 minutes. So after pausing for 5 minutes, it's going to pick the next item in this node, which is the search node, because depends on the number of items that we have. That's what is going to loop through. So it's going to loop through the second one, and then do the same thing through the scraping API, check the status pipeline, and then use this route to check the status. So if it's sold, it's going to move to the switch route sold switch, and then it's going to update it to switch. here we don't have any email, so it's just going to update it to sold, and then it comes to this wait node again, just to wait, because we don't want to congest the loop to loop immediately, because it might crash, and we don't want that. So this wait loop makes it to be more effective and less prone to issues. So that's why we have that, and then it continues like that through the API URL, and then it checks the code is going to structure the data, and here we have our route which checks the status, which is the status check pipeline for it to route based on the status that we have. So if it's expired, it's going to update the table, and then inform, send an email to the agent whether to extend the staging campaign or arrange any furniture pickup. So that is for this expired, and when it's unknown, it's just going to update it to unknown, and then go to the wait. Same thing for listed property, which is the last one. It's going to here is going to update, is going to update the the listing, the ID, the listing status, and the listing last checked, when it was last checked. So that's what it's going to do, and so that's how this flow is going to go. So once it does that, we have our done loop. This done loop basically is to, so when it has completed the loop for all the items, it's going to come to this code node. This code node will be the one to structure our data. So we want to structure our data. We want to get the number of listing that has been scanned from the trigger execution, and then it generates an HTML table for us that will be sent. So once it does that, then we are sending our email to the office to be aware of how many scans that has been done for that particular day. So, or for that particular day in a particular time. So that is what this flow is going to do. So like I said, we have our schedule trigger, then it goes to the search record, which is the table search record node, and then it's looped through each of the items. Once you loop through each of the items, takes one item at a time, and then it scrape it. Once you scrape it, it uses the JavaScript to structure the data, and then it uses the status check pipeline, which is the route node, to route each of the status, and each of the status does different thing entirely. So that is what this flow is going to do. So I'm just going to refresh. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to run this workflow now, and we see how it's going to run. So let me clear this up. So I'm going to run it. So this is our table. So this is our table. So this is the 4 items that is going to pick: this, 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 and this. So I'm going to run it now. So here we have 4 items. So it's looping through each of those items. So here it's just scraping the data. So it has scraped the data, it has picked it. Now you can see we have our sold property. It moves to the sold property. Now it waits for 5 seconds before it pick up the second item. So it's scraping the data as well, using the listing URL for that particular record. So once it does that, it's going to move to the code. Then here it checks the code. It sees that this particular status is unknown, so it moves to the unknown route switch. Then it's wait again for the 5 seconds. Now it's picking the third item. Now the third item as well is also a unknown status, so it's picking the fourth item now. Now the fourth item is running. You can see it's already in fourth item, and here it's already fourth, so it's going to pick. Now the fourth item it picked is what is sold item. So then it picks the last one, which has nothing, and then it sends the response to this code JavaScript to help us to structure the data and generate an HTML format for us. Then it sends the email to the office to be aware of the scan that has been done at that particular period of time. So once we go to our email. Let me refresh. So here now it's telling us the property listing scan report. We have our property, the status, the agent, the client, and the listing URL. So here we have 2 sold and 2 unknown. And if we go to our table, we have it updated here: sold, unknown, sold, unknown. So that is how this workflow is going to go. So I hope we understand. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section and let's talk. And if you want to build something like this, I'm very much available to discuss the business flow. Thank you very much. Bye.